Hi everybody, another Facebook Live. They've let me out and I get to do lots of colouring and it's really exciting. So we are going to be bringing you in 2021 regular Ink Lily shows, and we are commissioning artwork for those shows for the made into stamps, because up till now we've just worked with the stamps that were in the subscription with the education. So we're now going to start bringing you more stamps, which is very exciting because I get to choose them, which is lovely. And also it means that I can choose them with a purpose, so with techniques in mind, which is fabulous. And the first one is gnomes. And I'm going to give you a really quick sneak peek of some of the images because they are super cute. They just make me smile. And we're just going to colour part of one of the gnomes in today. So I'm not going to do it all, but I'll do a majority of it just to show you some of the technique bits. So we've got one set, and then we've got the set of gnomes. So we've got the situations where the gnomes might be in, like the house and the toadstool. And now another toadstool. I'm going to keep you going with those toadstools. And then we've got all these elements on here as well, which is really super cute. So I've stamped out one of them, and it does make me laugh because he has these knobbly knees, and it just makes me smile. It just really makes me giggle. And he's very cute, got this lovely heart balloon. So anniversary, weddings, Valentine's, birthday, whatever it is, whatever celebration, I think he's a super cute little character, and he would work really well on like a DL card, but as a portrait rather than a landscape. So I thought we would start by doing his beard. Now I'm going to use a slightly different colour because I hear that one or two of you have run out of warm grey one. We are working on the refills, and I know we keep saying that, but we're waiting for confirmation to come through from one of the factories, and as soon as we know anything we will let you know. In the meantime, you could use 201 warm grey. So you've got that colour. It's slightly beiger, it's slightly creamer, but it works well and it blends just as well. So we're going to have a look at that for you. So we're going to start with 201, and I'm going to do his beard a bit at a time, very much like I do in the education. We're just going to break it down into little individual pieces. So I'm going to go in first of all, and I'm going to use a 201, and it is slightly warmer. It does have quite like a mocha colour to it, quite caramel based, but it works really nice with the warm greys. So I'm just going to go in, and very light touch. Remember, I'm working with cardstock underneath, and we're just going to colour one area in, and we're going to try and do this with the launches. I can't promise every month we'll be able to fit it in as the launch, but we will do our best. It's just a bit of a crazy world at the moment, isn't it? I'm driving backwards and forwards all over the place. But we'll try and do our best. So I'm going to put a little bit of warm grey 2 now around the edge. So I'm just going to pull that round, and a little bit because his nose will cast a shadow, and he's got rather a nice round nose. And then I'm just going to fade that out as I come down to the bottom. And I'm going to go back and blend now with 201. So I'm not going to worry about the darker colour yet. I'm going to see if I need it as and when I've started to colour in. So I'm just going to very lightly just work over where that previous colour was. Okay, I'm just going to bring that in. And I'm literally, it's feather-like touch. Okay, I don't want to do too much or too little, but what I am going to do is I'm going to pick up some of the warm grey 2 on the 201 warm grey, and I'm going to use that just to very carefully pull that colour in. Okay, so I'm finding a mid colour, which actually would be more or less your warm grey one. Now I wouldn't suggest you do this on big areas, but to get you through, this will work perfectly. Okay, so I'm just going to pull that colour through like that. Okay, I'm going to get rid of any excess ink that's on my nib just by scribbling it on my paper, and I'm just going to go back in there now with some warm grey 2 because I can see I need to go right underneath his nose. And because this is one of the top layers, I'm not going to worry about warm grey 3 at this moment in time, because I'm going to use that in specific areas that I need it, rather than doing a 3 pen blend just for the sake of it. So I'm going to go in again on this layer here. And I'm just going to take my time and get that first base layer down nice and even. You can see I'm working methodically from one side to the other. I'm going backwards and forwards. And I'm going to just bring that area down here like that. Okay. And then on here I'm going to do a little bit more and bring that up from the bottom. And you kind of work out which bits you want over the top and which bits you want underneath. And if you're somebody that likes that white, that light space, then leave that white area in the middle for you to blend into. So again, I'm just going to use a small amount of the warm grey too. And I'm going to put that right underneath his nose. I'm going to put a little bit coming down here because that's like it almost passes underneath. And the same here, so a little bit like we're doing a plait, if you like. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to bring a little bit more because his hat will cast a shadow there. And then I'm going to go back in and use that pen to pick that up, and then I'm going to drag that colour through. So I'm using that on really light touch here because I don't want the 201 to move much of that warm grey too. I just want to use this as a mid colour. And that's something really that I've probably done more with Ink Lily than I did with my Copics, because Copics do 300 and some odd colours, which is a huge amount. And yes, I own every single one of them. But I have to say, I'm using my Ink Lilies has made me try different techniques to get that effect. And it's probably made me a better colourer. So that's good. I like that. I like it when you're pushed a little bit out of your comfort zone and you have to find an alternative. Because I think sometimes we learn so much from that, from having to kind of find an alternative. So I'm very gently just bringing that colour down now. Just very gently like that. Right, so let's go in and do this area here, which is going to be underneath. So we're going to add a little bit more depth into here, getting lighter as we come down. And then we're going to do this one. Because I'm working on small areas, I'm not worrying about getting that, really working that colour in, because it's a small area. It'll almost blend itself really. And then I'm going to go in here with the warm grey too. I'm going to bring it down a little bit further and I'm going to pull it through here. Like that. And then I'm going to use this pen again. So I'm going to pick it up like a palette and use that to soften that down like that. I do really enjoy doing this where I pick colour up off one nib because it's a really nice technique actually. And it does make you think about the light and the shade and the mixing of those colours. So I can go right back in now. And I might only use these two colours. I might not even think about, but now I've done that bit, I want to go back up here again and put a bit more up here. So that's fine. We're just playing and finding our way. I haven't coloured him in before, so you're kind of getting my thought process as I go along. And it's fine to go back over because, as we said many, many times before, it doesn't get darker if you go over while it's still wet. And even when it's dry, it's only half a shade darker. So it just means that you've got that versatility within those pens. Right, I'm happy with that now. So I'm going to go back to my original colour and let's do this little bit in the middle here. Just fill that in. And then go right in there with, now this is going to be darker still, because I've got shadow from here and from here, so this part here is going to be dark, like that, and then pulling that down. And I'm going to bring that mixed colour right down to the bottom there because it's darker. And then let's do this area here. And I find by doing it one little bit at a time, it takes that pressure off of doing a big area. And it actually makes me really focus and really think about where the light and shade is. So again, I'm going to pick up a little bit of that colour and mix it through. And then we'll do this bit down here. I have to remind myself to drop my shoulders back and not sit with my head on one side, because my shoulder always hurts. I've got dodgy shoulders at the best of times. I'm going to pull this down. Like this. There, and then we're going to go here like this. So I'm going to go, that right now looks like it's coming over like this. I need to push it underneath. So I'm going to go in with that dark. I'm going to make it look like that's behind. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that and pull it down. Like that. And then I'm just going to go back and revisit this bit here and just put a little bit more dark in there. And then I might bring in warm grey 3. And just add that right into there. And that, because we've already got quite a lot of ink on there, that will actually naturally want to blend through. I'm just going to go back and revisit that bit. And you can always go back over it afterwards and add a little bit more in, which I probably will do. I don't think I've ever just coloured something once and gone, right, I'm happy with that. I think I revisit it all the time. And I end up with loads of lids like this and pens, and I'm like, right, which one goes with which? There we go. Right, so one more little bit and then we'll leave his beard because I want to go into his hat. So you're just going to work down and you're going to look at how and where the light and the dark, which bit's behind, which bit's underneath. So again, I'm going to pull that colour down. That. And you could do this in all sorts. You could do a whole rainbow beard if you wanted to. It's your gnome, it's up to you. So just as a last bit on that one, the beard, what I would then do is go back in with my warm grey 2 and just very lightly just start to add a little bit of that flick technique, just coming down, just give it a little bit of texture. Just be brave. Remember, we can get rid of it if we don't like it. Just go over it with another colour. I'm just going to work, but you must make sure that the darkest bit goes right to that stamped edge. So don't do this in the middle of it, just there we go. And then the same on here. Just, and this is, you can either turn your work round and do it this way, it depends how you feel comfortable, but I am holding that pen right at the bottom, as close to that nib as I can get, so it's stable, And if I don't get any lines sometimes, it doesn't matter, okay? It's all about just adding in that texture. But keep that depth of colour where it goes underneath. Otherwise it won't look right. And just start to add in. I could spend literally hours colouring him in. Like that. Okay, and then I might pick up a little bit of that warm grey too and just continue that down because I quite like that. So pick up a little bit on your 201 warm grey and just bring that feathering down a little bit more. And actually, if I thought about it, what I would have done is done this one first and then gone over with the darker layer. But try both and see which you prefer. Or none. Just whatever you prefer. And don't forget the angel policy, which means that once you've done one of these, you can photocopy it up to 75 times per design per year. So if you make and sell, ink lily is still a great way of producing your finished little pieces of art. Right, I'm quite happy with how his beard is coming on now, so I'm going to move on to his hat so that we can get a couple of different techniques in there. I'm just going to lift this up so that you can see it a bit clearer. You can see now we're starting to get that whisker look, if you like. There you go. See it start to get that depth in that colouring, so it starts to look like it's going in and out of itself. It's cool, isn't it? It always amazes me how you get a flat image and then you make it look dimensional with the colours. I love that bit. Right, making sure all my lids are back on properly, because I'm a devil for that. We're going to do his hat. So I'm going to use a 3-pen blend. I'm going to do it in blues. And I'm going to start with BG7, which is a blue-grey. And then I'm going to use, I've got 70 and I've got 69. Okay, so it's going to be BG7, 70 and then 69. So I'm going to start with a greyer colour. So let's have a think how we're going to do this. Let's do this front bit first. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to colour the whole thing in with the blue-grey 7. So I like to work around my edges. I've always done this, even from being little. I remember going around the edges of everything and then filling it in. And with some pens, it doesn't always work like that because you tend to get lines, but with alcohol markers, you don't get that. Which is, I think, why I love them so much, because it does look, you can get that printed look. So I'm just going to fill that in now. Just doing a small area at a time, and when you put the colour down it will look like it's going darker. It's not where you overlap. It's just because you've got another layer of colour on there. But once that's evaporated, it will also, I like that blue, that's really nice. Gives it a bit more of a vintage look, I think. So 70 next, so we're going to start over here and we're going to make this look a bit more dimensional. So I'm now using that flick technique that we've learnt right throughout the course. One of my favourite techniques, I think. I like the soft look that it gives. And I'm going to just fill in down here around his nose and then just use that soft brush technique. But again, you can see how low down I hold my pen, and it might be that takes practice. You know, if it's not natural for you to hold your pen that low. It's interesting though, when I went home over Christmas, because our grandchildren are in a bubble with my husband because he's the childcare after school. We got to see them over Christmas, which was lovely, I have to say. But Alice holds a pen just like I do. She doesn't hold a pen like you would expect a child to hold it like this. She actually holds it properly. Oh yeah. It's definitely a learned behaviour. Right, I'm going to go around there like that. So we've got the darker areas, and I'm just going to bring that dark kind of over the top there because we've got a few little pleats in there. So we're going to add a little bit of depth and dimension. And then remember, we'll work backwards. So we're going to go back in with 70 and soften that 6 to 9 colour there with the 70. Just where those two colours start to meet. And then we're going to go back in with our blue grey. And it's interesting, having the blue grey as a base gives these colours a completely different look, which I really like actually. I think it's quite cute. So you can go many different ways with these gnomes. You can go really bright and funky if you want to, or you can really tone it down and get it quite vintage. So depending on who you're sending it to. So if I was sending this to my husband, sorry, oh, if he was sat here now, I'd be like, what are you trying to say, that I'm vintage? I'm like, well, maybe. That just made me giggle. And I said it. I won't tell him I said that. That's just made me smile. So I've done that bit. So now we're going to go back in and do the rest of the heart here. If I was sending this to, what I'm trying to say is, if I was sending it to my granddaughter, I'd make it nice and bright and funky and young. If I was sending it to my husband, I'd make it a bit more vintage looking. He'll love me for that. I don't think about age, it's just a number. It doesn't bother me, but yeah, that's quite funny. Right, so I have to tell you something that he did while I'm just laying this colour down. So our Christmas, about 3 or 4 days before Christmas Day, he came into the lounge and he said, where can I get a Santa suit from? I thought, what's he doing now? I said, I don't know. So anyway, we looked and they were like £80. He said, I'm not paying £80. I said, what do you want it for? I said, I want it because I want to, on Christmas morning when we go around to see the children open the presents, he said, I want to sneak in through the back gate. I want Alice to be in the lounge and then the curtains closed at the back of the house. He said, and then I want to make a noise and I want Matthew to say, what's that, Alice? And when he opens the curtains, he just sees the back of me running off. But I need to look like Santa, so she thinks that Santa's in the back garden. I thought, blinking out. And he's loving to bits, but he leaves everything to the last minute. So I was like, right, okay, fine. So couldn't find a Santa suit. Obviously, town's not open because we're heading into lockdown. And I didn't want him going into town anyway because it's not safe. So he finds these 3 stockings that we've bought for Christmas. You know, like the big red felt ones that you put presents in. He finds 3 of those. So he starts cutting this up. So he ends up with this proper jacket with sleeves in. Oh, I have to say I was pretty impressed. All stitched by hand. So he makes this jacket, 2 sleeves in it. Makes these 2 legs, but he's run out of material, so they're just elasticated, so they go over the top of his trousers. Then he cuts up one of my old cushions and puts fur all the way around. So like proper Santa suit. And then we find, I make him a beard out of this old white throw and a Santa hat. So anyway, on Christmas morning, we get this phone call at like, you know what it's like, 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. So he's there in all his Santa gear getting in the car and gets out the car, goes around the back of the house, and it works perfectly. So when we knock on the door and Alice opens it, she's like, Nana, Grandad, I've just seen Santa and it was really exciting. And it just reminded me of that hat. And it was just, honestly, it was the best thing ever. So yeah, it was just amazing. And Alice was absolutely thrilled because she was convinced that Santa had been in her back garden. Yeah, but it just made me laugh when I saw this hat because it looked a bit like that. But it was just fantastic. 5-year-old convinced that she'd seen Santa in the back garden. And she still didn't twig, didn't click on at all. It was just brilliant. Right, so what I'm doing now is I've gone over with my blue-grey one, and now I'm going in with number 70. And I'm just starting. Now remember what I say about when we do this flicking technique and we go in the curve of the shape that we're colouring. So I'm curving that round and I'm avoiding those hearts at the moment because I want to try and keep those clean like that. So I'm going to go round the edge of the heart now. So I am really literally just touching that colour in. Okay. It's a bit like those white dots, isn't it, on the mushroom that we did in class 1. But we can always go over it after, so we're not going to worry about it too much. But just try and avoid them if you can. If it was white, if I was keeping them white, it wouldn't be too much of a problem because I could just go over with the Ink Lily white gel pen. But I really want to do them in red, I think, or maybe even green. So I kind of want to try and keep that clean. Right, so I'm going to go right round the rim of the front of the hat there. I want to get right into that stamped line. And then I'm just going to do a small amount going up the sides like that. So I'm not going to overdo the dark. I'm just going to use it where it's needed. Around here and going into the tip of the hat. And around here like this. All the way up like that. And into there. So then backwards, so we're going to blend that through with our 70. So just soften that line where we've been before. Just going over it and moving that ink, and then round that rim I'm just going to soften that bit there where we went. I'm going to come on this side of the heart this time with that. There we go. And then blue grey 7. And I'm going to do that, you know, that technique that we learnt where we just go backwards and forwards up the middle like that, and it softens those lines. I haven't got a date yet for this show, but I have to say, just colouring this bit in, and I'm really excited about it now. I think it'll be nice to have something different to colour in. I think we're ready for that now. Now, once that's dry, what I would do is get my white gel pen and just put a white line across there, like a little, and add some detail lines into his hat. But also you can go back in with your Ink Lily fine liners and just re-establish where the stamp line was if you lose it a bit, because it's quite a dark colour. You might want to go in and just re-establish where that is. And I've got a little bit here that I'm not sure whether it's his beard or his hat, so I'm just going to go in and make it part of his hat. I'm going to go in with that dark colour there. Okay, and then just to do those hearts, I'm not even going to worry about blending these. I'm just going to go in and just put that little bit of red in there with number 15, and I'll just do the same on that one there. Okay, then I think we need to do his nose, so we'll do his nose. I'm just going to use skin colours, so I'm going to start with 27 and go in. I love the fact that his hat's too big. And then I'm going to pick up some 26 with my 27. So I'm going to get it on that nib, and I'm going to use that just to go in. Actually, I'm going to put it straight down because I can afford to, because it's quite dark. So I'm judging now. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, right, well, the colours around it are quite dark, so I can go in and add a little bit more than I normally would, like that. And then just to add a little bit of pink in there, because in my head it'd have a bit of a pink nose, like that. And that will just soften that through. And because those colours are quite close together, it will naturally just blend. I don't really need to do much more to that. But, she says, there we go, I might just go in with that warm grey 201 again, which sounds a bit odd for skin tone. It doesn't matter whether you pick up off your brush end or your chisel end, but I just want to knock that colour back a little bit. I don't want it to be I want it to be a bit more vintage. Just by going in and picking up a bit of that, just knocking that colour back a little bit, that works better for me. I like that. And then I'll just go back over with that pink because I've moved a little bit too much there. That's it. Right, I think I am going to leave him there, because otherwise when I go on air, in fact I think I'm going to try and keep him so I can finish him off on air. Shall we just do his wings? Let's just do his wings. I like the fact that he's got wings. It looks like, do you know what this, it reminds me that my granddaughter has got my husband wrapped round her little finger, and face paint, nothing is off limits. Face painting, painting with proper paint, all nothing. You'll let her do anything. So it looks like Alice has been to our house and gone, Grandad, I want to dress you up as a gnome. And this is what she's done. And then just to finish him off, she's put a fairy wings on him at the end, and he'd let her. He would let her. If I asked him to do it, no chance. But he will let Alice do anything. So I'm just going to do one part of the fairy wings because it is making me smile. I'm just going to go in and I'm going to put the blender down first. So this is very much like we did with the, I want to say the snowdrop or the water lily. Not the water lily. Yeah, it was the water lily. Where we did the blender down first and then we put the colour over the top. And that softened it, and I'm actually going to go in with, I'm going to try that first. I'm going to put this warm grey in first, and then I'm going to go over with the blue. Might work, might not. I told you, I won't know, will I? So, 182. Yeah, that's quite nice. It knocks that blue back a little bit. It's not as bright as it would be. And then I'm going to go back with my blender, and I haven't replaced my nib. I broke it. Trying to be clever. Broke it, trying to get it out to show you that it would come out, and I broke it. But I haven't replaced it yet, and it's still doing its job. And yes, we are looking at spare nibs too. But it's all a bit crazy in the world at the moment, so we'll get there. So I'm just adding a little bit more of that blue in there, and then I'm going to leave it at that, I think. Yeah. She says, yeah, I'm happy with that, she says, going over it again. It's just typical of me. Right, so we've got his hat, we've got his beard, and you can see how he's starting to come together, and then his wing just giving that slight look. And don't forget, all this has to evaporate yet, so it'll dry lighter, that wing. But he's starting to look quite cool, isn't he? I think that's just, I love him. And all his little friends that come along with him, and all the little settings for him. I think he's just a really cute set to start with. We're going to do all sorts of different stuff. We've got masculine stamps, we've got feminine stamps, we've got all sorts coming for you, and you'll pick and choose the ones that you like. We're not expecting you to buy every single set, but I just think it's we're ready now, aren't we, to move on to something else after the education. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I am sure I will see you very soon. Please stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll see you soon.